Well, guys, this weekend definitely just got a little crazy for some of you. Nastia was just announced 4 minutes ago to be one of the units on Special Ancient Summoning this weekend, and she's pretty phenomenal. I would say right now she's just about a top 5 legendary lord in this game. She's also paired with Sargok, who's definitely always been good, but lately has probably become a bit less relevant. However, this is extra significant because Sargok was just buffed. So I'm definitely going to have to test him out now this week for you guys to see how good the buff actually was. But you'll see in my video coming out tomorrow or later today, depending on your time zone, that we got a bunch of buffs or reworks, we can say, to different units. We had Astral with a big makeover, big rework. Then you can see here, we've got a nice little change for Sargok, the Gruesome Spear. I think there was one more. You're going to see it tomorrow. Little adjustment on Pierre. This was just kind of a glitch. A little adjustment on Ezrith. Little adjustment on Lyra. Little adjustment on Hotsit. It's mostly Astral and Sargok. We'll talk about it more in the next video that you guys see, or within the next 2 videos from this. But I just want to give my early thoughts. This isn't a should you summon. We'll cover that Thursday or Friday. But I want to give my early thoughts on this banner, because I think a lot of you, not all of you, a lot of you are going to get really excited if you are, near your next big milestone, and Nastia potentially could be what you're missing. So can you go for this banner? Absolutely. Should you? Totally depends on you and your goals and everything. Nastia is phenomenal. I would never judge anyone for going for her. But the big thing you've got to consider is what could be coming. So that's going to be, you'll hear me talk about it a few times this week, but that's what I want to get kind of out of my head and onto the video right now. A legendary ancient exclusive lord is coming pretty dang soon, we would think, to the Infernal Blast. The Infernal Blast has kind of become, I don't want to call it a forgotten faction, but a faction they've let shift to the wayside. Let me flip my camera. I've been looking the wrong way the whole time. Here you go. Like, kind of what was happening with cultists until they brought Ezrith along and Valise, and they buffed Beatrix, and they buffed Honora a while ago, all those little things, right? And then they added content like Gear Raid 1, 22, 23, 24. They added the harder Gear Dungeon 1, Stage 11, 12, 13, and then obviously Matrix. That kind of made cultists this big, brand new thing and this amazing hype. New heroes, fresh blood, new content they excel with, and new things to chase. Infernals seem like they're about to get that treatment, right? They hinted towards it in the dev roadmap, that kind of virtual interview we did in the 2 parts. Me and a few other creators had videos on that. You can go watch my roadmap video if you're curious. But they explicitly said in the first, I don't remember if they said the first quarter or the first half of the year. I think it was the first quarter. I think it was like a Q1 2026 thing. They said we'd be getting our next legendary lord, and it would be a new ancient exclusive Infernal Blast unit. Now, at this point, speaking of Nastia, she's pretty aggressively is a stretch, but she has in many pieces of content kind of power crept Soul Cadens. So Soul Cadens used to be the superstar single target magic DPS lord. And then along came Nastia, who pound for pound in terms of damage for most content is probably worse than Soul Cadens, but she really holds her own in terms of damage. And then she brings more to the table in terms of debuffing, and she's got a better lord skill, and she synergizes better with the top units in her faction, right? She is one of the 3 key members in the Poison team with Vorn, and then obviously the absolute queen, Numera. So for that reason, Nastia, of all people, has kind of pushed Soul Cadens out of the meta. Not to say you can't accomplish tons of incredible things with him, but for perspective, I've never used Soul Cadens on my account at all. As soon as I go to push my Infernal Blast faction trials, which I really have to do, I obviously will, but Twin Fiend's been good enough for me, and for the content that really matters where I'm going to bring one or the other, I keep bringing Nastia over and over because she's that freaking good, right? So I would suspect, because they went out of their way to say there's a new team coming, and if you don't know what that means, it's not just a new lord coming who's going to be in charge of the team. It's going to be them bringing in a new style team. So we saw that in the past in a few different ways. Recently, they did a shield thing with the Northerners. Long ago, they did the Summoner team with the Cultists, which has kind of been reinforced over the past year. The biggest example ever, though, was with Nastia. Nastia kind of ushered in the Poison team. We got Nastia, Vorn, and Numera pretty close together, and that is just like a key little trio, a key comp for so much content. And they've been hyping up this Infernal team, and it makes me think that that's going to be the next big thing. I think maybe it's going to be like a Legendary Lord, the next big thing for content that might not even exist yet, by the way. But it's going to be like the next Legendary Lord might have some synergy with burning. That's the first place my head goes. And he's going to make all these burn units, units that can put out a burn dot from the Infernal Blast. He's going to make them all a lot more relevant. Maybe he can skyrocket Lyra or Zila 2. Hex already is good, but maybe he can take Hex to the next level. Phineas is already good, but he could go to the next level. Who knows? Maybe even the girl Anai, my old arch nemesis. A lot of stuff could happen when that new unit comes. So that's a huge thing to think about before you go crazy this weekend. The other big thing has to be the existence of the Assassin's Creed collaboration. I put a video out on it yesterday, or maybe 2 days ago, depending on where you live in your time zones, but it is officially announced that we are getting our second ever crossover collaboration event in Watcher of Realms, and our first ever with a private IP. Some people took issue with me saying it was the first ever with like a private, non-public domain IP because Watcher of Realms did a collab with Game of Thrones. That was only in China, only on the Chinese server. Maybe some of you don't know, but the Chinese server and the Chinese version of the game is a whole other thing. Like, it's a completely different thing. Yes, many of the characters are the same. Yes, the gameplay is the same, but they get different events. They get different banners. They just have totally different things, right? So to me, that doesn't really count. But tangent aside, we do have these Assassin's Creed units coming. And if we think about the last time we had a collaboration event, and I would suspect they're going to want to go harder on this one because now they have an IP partner. They have another developer they're working with. They have another kind of group. There's another party involved. I think they're going to want to take it even further to another level. But the last time we had one of these was with Dracula, right? It was the Dracula's Castle. We had 4 units. We had Van Helsing, who's a normal unit, right? He had his special banner where you could choose his partner on the banner. For example, I chose Nerissa. Some people chose Numera. Some people chose Draylen. Some people chose Hotsut, I'm sure. I mean, whatever. You know who you chose at the time. That's how he was made available, but he was a normal unit. Then there was Lady Mina, who was a special limited unit, but still a normal unit. When I'm saying normal, I mean non-ancient. And then we had Vlad Draculia, who, again, is a non-ancient unit. He was actually 100% free to play. He was completely available for free. Who was the 4th unit? Well, it was Count Dracula, who was kind of like the face of the event because it was Dracula's castle. And he's insane, right? We knew he was great at the time, but the way he's grown into his PvP dominance is pretty special. You can go back and watch. I was incredibly high on him. Some people said I was overhyping him. Even with the perceived overhype, I did not think he would be this amazing for Arena. I said he could potentially be meta in some PvP. I didn't know he would be meta in most PvP, and he's just amazing. And people are finding new uses for him every day. Shout out to Almighty Sword, who just did a crazy thing with Dracula in 324. I'm going to cover that soon. I was just talking to him earlier. But I'm bringing this up because Dracula was the ancient exclusive unit. Dracula was actually guaranteed through a side event connected to his banner if he pulled 90 times. So it's very likely, I would think, if they follow the same formula or something close to it, we're going to have some kind of guaranteed ancient exclusive unit who's crazy overpowered that is like the headliner of the Assassin's Creed collaboration. So very likely that's going to be Ezio da Firenze, who's like the most famous character from what I understand from the entire Assassin's Creed franchise, which has been around for like 15 plus years. He was from Assassin's Creed 2. He was running on the roofs of Florence. He looks very cool. My guess is he's going to be the ancient exclusive, and he's going to be wildly good. And if you remember from the Dracula's event, right, they're all exclusive. They're all gone, and we don't know if they're ever coming back. And if they are coming back, we don't know when they are. So I just think If you want to go for this, you should. We're going to cover it in more detail and talk more about Nastia and Sargok later in the week. But I want people to already start thinking, am I ready? Can I have 90 ancients 2 weeks from now, or a month from now, or a month and a half from now, whenever we think the event is coming? And I think you're going to want to have that, because I think the people that weren't able to go for Dracula probably regret it, or not even regret it. They feel bad about it, because you can't regret it, because we didn't know that was a thing. His banner and his event on the side of his banner, those were the only instances we've ever seen with his acquisition method was the only time we've seen a guaranteed way to get a specific ancient unit, right? And it's the only time we'd ever seen it to that point, and it's the only time we've seen it since. It has not come back. So I think this will be the way it comes back. And now you are in a position where if you don't prepare yourself, you might regret it, because now we actually know. We've seen it happen once with Dracula. You have people like me telling you it might be happening again. So just heed my warning, right? I think you're going to want to be ready. And that's not based on anything more that I know, under the surface. It's just, I think this is what's going to happen, because I think we can kind of read the tea leaves here. So big news. I think a lot of you guys are very excited, and I think you should be. This is a really good banner. Also, this is a really fun banner. This is shaping up to be a really cool weekend. Let's actually quickly mention Knight Arlot. Speaking of some teams and some factions that have shot into relevance, or the developers are trying to shoot into relevance, we've seen the cultists grow like crazy over the past 6 months or whatever. And then we've got Infernal, which is what's coming. Those are his two factions. So pretty exciting weekend. Nastia and Sargok, the newly buffed Sargok, that should be pretty cool. But remember, we're probably getting Ezio and friends through the Assassin's Creed collaboration. And whether or not you like Assassin's Creed, I think more than any actual IP or character, we just like good units, right? Lynx is a cringy mess, but if Lynx was as good as Dracula, or Lynx was as good as Kagiri, or Lynx was as good as Diao Chan or Ireless, we would use her, right? And that's just the truth. So if you're not thrilled about the Assassin's Creed collaboration, if the units are awesome and you get them, you'll be thrilled about that. So just remember that. Get excited for Nastia, but also start thinking hard about it and start getting ready. Thank you so much for watching. I've been Fastidious. Share it with your mother, and I'll see you real soon. Bye.
Fastidious.